Hey, this is the Innovator of Violence, Tommy Dreamer, and you're listening to Live and in Color with my man, Wolfie D.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. And today we are welcoming one of my personal favorite wrestlers of all time, the Innovator of Violence, Tommy "By God" Dreamer. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, man. Thank you for that intro. I appreciate you. Wolfie, you're doing it right. You got a guy who's playing up nice to me. I like it so far.
Yeah. I said, listen, just stroke his ego and everything's
That's all wrestlers like that.
Yes, we do. We love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just talked to you a minute ago, but how the fuck are you, Tommy?
I'm doing great, man. Blessed. Every day that we're here is a good day. Terry Funk told me a long, long time ago, every day of pro wrestling is a good day, and I'm happy to still be doing something I've loved since I was 9 years old. So life is blessed.
Awesome.
Wow.
I'm 8. We just talked about that, so I got you by a year. Even though you're older than me, you old fuck. Just for men, Tommy, just for men.
Yeah, I use it. I've never dyed my hair on my head. I'm holding on to every strand that I can, but I am an avid yeah, man.
Right? You're Italian, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but it is. Us rednecks down here, we get gray.
And bald.
Hey, my beard is white, dude.
Hey folks, to get your official Live and in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to prowrestlingtees.com/live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
So, Tommy, I'm going to ask you the damn same question you asked me. What got you into this shit, man?
First time I ever saw it, I didn't know what it was. I grew up in New York. Back in the day, there's only, 2, 4, 7, 9, 11, channel 13, and the UHF channel. So there's 7 channels. Channel 5 doesn't even exist yet.
Right.
And channel 9, New York, me and my dad were Ranger fans. They're supposed to play the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal. The game is snowed out because of the bad weather. So instead they show professional wrestling from Madison Square Garden. I hear Vince McMahon's voice. I see this wrestler, Bulldog Brower, being crazy, and then here comes Bob Backlund, and I am all in from that moment.
Really?
I remember seriously bouncing up and down, and when you see a kid jumping up and down, you know they're excited. I love it today.
Was Backlund over with you?
Well, being up here in the North, I never seen wrestling before. Here he comes with the title, and he was the best guy ever. And he was my favorite. Then my dad takes me for my 10th birthday at the White Plains County Center to see Bob Backlund wrestle. I make a sign for him. He slaps my hand. I remember turning to my friend and I felt I had a superpower because Bob Backlund just touched my hand. He wrestles. He wins. He beats Bobby Duncombe Jr. with the worst finish ever, the Atomic Spine Crusher. And
Bobby Duncombe Jr., bless him. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Bobby Duncan Sr.
Oh, Senior. Okay. I was
he beats his dad. Beats him with the Atomic Spine Crusher. And then he comes by me and I said, Bob, can you sign my sign for me? And he says, no problem. Wait for me, kid. Wait for me. So, of course, now me and Bob Backlund are chilling. We're boys. The show, I'm waiting for Bob Backlund to come back to sign my autograph.
Yeah. He
doesn't. Security says, hey man, you got to go. I'm like, no, Bob Backlund has to sign my sign. And back then, dude, nobody made signs, you know?
Yeah.
But I did. It was Bob Backlund #1. And I wrote his name too long. So I had a tape with Scotch tape 2 construction posters together.
Nice.
And I'm waiting. The security gives up where the boys leave. He goes, well, you got to leave here, but they go right out there. For some weird reason, 10-year-old me did not want Bob Backlund seeing me with my dad. So I made my dad wait in the car. It was kind of sleeting out. And I remember my father was off to the side. And it was like me, two dudes, and what now I would consider groupies, rats, whatever you want to call them. We're hanging around waiting for the boys in the sleep.
Love the rats.
And then here comes Arnold Skolin. He comes and he gives me my first ever wrestling autograph. He signs the program, which I still have. And then it was like that, the old school Mean Joe Green commercial. I see Bob Backlund. He's got a towel across his neck. And he's walking and this is my moment. And I'm going to be his tag team champion with Bob Backlund. And he says at the time, the most influential words to me ever. I was like, Bob, can you sign my sign? And he looks right at me and goes, I'll get you next time, kid. And I was like, what? And I was like, no, Bob, it's me. And Arnold Skolin pulls up the car. And again, it's sleeting. He gets in the car and drives away. And I was crushed. And I hated wrestling. That was it. I was done. And I was now going to be the New York Yankees third baseman because it was the late 70s. They just won 2 world titles. My dad is a teacher. We go to Florida for spring break for him. And in the newspaper, it's you want to go see wrestling. And my dad, before that, dude, got me wrestling magazines. I was all in on wrestling, kind of getting away from it real quick. We go to the Hollywood Sportatorium in Hollywood, Florida, and I'm just there with my dad having a fun time. And then it was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Oh,
and I remember it was Ivan Koloff and Dick Murdoch. Dick Murdoch just turned on America, and he joined with Ivan Koloff versus Bugsy McGraw and Dusty Rhodes in a tag match. And I remember the spotlight hits Dusty, the way his hair, with that white hair, and there was the gnats from hot Florida building just shined on him with a spotlight. And dude, I literally watched that man float to the ring like a god. He had a trash can. Bugsy had a broom handle. They have this wild match, and I was frozen, dude. And when I tell you frozen, I could not move. I watched them win. As soon as he went back, I turned. Right there, I bought my first ever wrestling 8x10, which was a picture of Dusty Rhodes, bloody picture of Dusty with the bull rope. I don't even remember. It wasn't my money. It was my dad's. Then I bought my first ever wrestling T-shirt, Barry Windham, The Kid is Hot Tonight, which does not fit me.
Awesome. Wyndham was awesome.
Yeah, this is early Barry. Dude, I think about that card. I saw Barry Windham versus Jimmy Garvin. I saw that main event. So many guys that were just what a great card.
I was there at because you were talking about Bob Backlund. I was there at the Slammy Awards when him and Different Strokes, what was his name? The kid on Different Strokes.
Gary Coleman?
Todd Bridges or Gary Coleman?
Todd. Yeah. It was a shoot, bro. It was a shoot. Do you remember that?
No.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
Yes, Slammy Awards. I think it was 90. It was either 96 or 90. It had to be 97 because that's right before WrestleMania. Yeah, Backlund and Todd Bridges goes up there, and then I forget what the deal was, but it wasn't supposed to be like it was, and they ended up locking up, and Bob fucking took him down, man. You guys,
no, that's Bob.
Yeah, look that shit up, man. Look that shit up. And you're talking about getting autographs and stuff. I'll tell you 2 of my favorites when I was a kid, and obviously got to meet both of these guys later in life. But as a young kid, I'm waiting at the Municipal Auditorium in Nashville. I knew where the wrestlers went in and whatever, and there's a little walk down where you can get kind of close. And Hawk was, one of my inspirations, man. And I said, "Hey, Hawk, can I get an autograph? What do I look like? A pen and a pad?" And then the other one The other one, and you just kept walking. The other one was Barry Horowitz. And Barry Horowitz, before his WWF run, was kind of like the greatest jobber or whatever. And that's not a knock. He's a carpenter. But he was in Memphis, and he was called Stretcher Jack Hart. So me being this young kid thinks I was a smart mark before that was ever invented. And I go, "Hey, Stretcher Jack Hart." And here's Barry's comeback. "That's not my name, punk."
Nice. But it was Dusty that really, he was my hero, man. I remember we got Florida Championship Wrestling on Tuesday nights at 11 or 11:30. And I made a deal with my parents, like a young kid. I will get up every day, Wednesday after, because I would try, when you're 10, 11 years old, trying to stay up till past midnight is hard on a school day. And I would say every day, every Wednesday, I would get up early because I had to find out what happened to Dusty Rhodes on Tuesday nights. And I was just hooked. And then the bigger wrestling magazines, here wrestling was on at midnight and always trying to stay up late. This is also before VCRs. Once that happens, then I become a full-blown tape trader. So, that's kind of my story of what got me hooked. If I go back to the Bob Backlund thing for a second, I've only had a few encounters with Bob Backlund in my career. One, I had my first ever tryout for the WWF and at the White Plains County Center, same place I go and see wrestling for the first time. First person I meet is Bob Backlund and Arnold Skolin. It was actually Arnold's town.
Oh yeah.
And of course I'm not going to tell him the story. Then he came up to ECW. We kind of threw him out of the building. That's a whole other story. So then I tell him, dude, when I tell you it's probably my friend is kind of like his handler, his manager. They're going to do an autograph session. He's like, "Hey, you want to see Bob? We'll go do lunch." And I was like, "Sure, man." I sit there, I'm hanging out with Bob. I tell him the story, and it's seriously 30 years later. And because I'm in my 40s and I don't know, I just left WWE. So yeah, I'm close to 40. And I tell him the whole story and he gets embarrassed, dude. And I'm like, "No, Bob, I've lived a life. I get it, And I was like, "You could have signed for me," because there was only 3 to 4 of us, but I get it, Bob. You had to make the town. It was bad weather, blah, blah, blah. Literally, that was on a Friday. On Tuesday, I get mail. I open it up, and it's an autographed picture of Bob Backlund holding up the title. It says, "To my number one fan, Tommy Turner," blah, 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 blah.
Address.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it has to be, as you're a Dusty fan, though, sorry to jump to Dusty again, the Dreamer name, that has to be somewhat based off of Dusty, correct?
Yes. As you know, and Wolfie will tell you, when you have all aspirations of yourself, what you want to be when you're starting out, I'm getting trained by Johnny Rods, getting ready to have my first ever match. And I wanted to be Sting meets the Great Muta. We're talking 1989. Sting and Muta are super duper over.
Right.
I could actually do the roundabout handspring elbow. I could do everything Muta and everything Sting. I could still probably do it. It just was very slow. And I wanted to paint my face and spit acid because, to be able to spit the green mist, you have to turn your intestines so you could spit the different colors of mist. If you squeeze it one way, it's green for bile. If you twist it the other way, it's blood. You don't want to be bleeding internally. And then if you twist it the other way, it's black bile. So I wanted to spit white and black. I had a fluorescent thing I wanted to drink that used to come in those things that used to shake.
Oh,
and I would spit that because I wanted to spit this different type of acid in your face.
Okay.
And I wanted to be known as Tommy Acid.
Okay.
And my trainer, dude, I'm ready for my first ever match. And he's like, "What's your name?" And I and he's like, well, what's your gimmick? And my trainer's WWE Hall of Famer, Johnny Rodz. And I say, Tommy Acid. I literally lay out, I'm going to be Sting meets the Great Muta. I'm going to paint my face, all this stuff. And I'm Tommy Acid. And he looks at me, and there was also a techno song called This Is Acid.
Questions have been made about this new dance craze called acid. What people really want to know is how the story all goes about acid. This is acid. I'm gonna give you acid.
And I'm sure if you listen to it, Wolfie, you'll friggin' know and pop for it. And that's what I wanted to come out to. I had like in my head, like I want to come out to like black and white lights, like all stupid stuff that you're thinking when you're first getting into business.
Yes.
And he looks at me and he goes, you're too good looking to be paint your face. It's a stupid name. If you don't come up with a different name, I'm going to call you Tommy Dickhead. You have 10 minutes to tell me a new name. And then I'm like, I don't want to be Tommy Dickhead. And so I came up, I was like, all right, it's always been my dream. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, has been my favorite wrestler. Boom, Tommy Dreamer.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. But hey, both of you ignored me a minute ago when I said,
I didn't hear you.
Fuck, did Bob Backlund get your address to send you that?
Oh, my friend, like I said, he's a really good friend of mine. He's Bob's handler, and he was like, he got my address from him, and he sent it to me, which is awesome. And we're really good friends.
Cool. Okay, so let's go back, and you know, this is what I love about my podcast that I've figured out, man. Jimmy's the one that approached me about this. I had no clue about any of this, but I got to put him over. He's done so much for us and helped us out, and you know, got us to where we are. But at any rate, wrestling. What you said, Johnny Rodz trained you, and I love to get to know because I've been around you guys, man. You know, it was taboo, Tommy, for us to take pictures with each other and things like that. And nowadays it's all, you know, everybody does it. And I had Ted DiBiase put me in the $1 Million Dream the other day and take a picture because I'm like, fuck it, man. You know, I'm retired and it's not taboo no more. But what got you in and what made you, not Johnny Rodz, but where was the first place? Like, where did you get your start? All that kind of stuff. Because I know it wasn't ECW, right?
No. Listen, man, Johnny was a great trainer. He was in the ring with me all the time. And he's trained so many guys who have made it. But like my classes, we could only go Mondays and Tuesdays. And I would usually be the first person there, the last person to leave. I'm 18 years old. I designed my entire college schedule around wrestling training. Yeah. And Johnny, and he was probably...
Hey, real quick, if you don't mind me asking, and if you don't want to say you don't have to, what did it cost you?
$3,000.
$3,000 up front?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
You could do a payment plan. If you also think about it, wrestling has been pretty much $3,000 throughout the course of my career. Why it hasn't gone up in inflation, I have no clue. Because right now it should cost like maybe $10,000. But
dude, when I was
a whole other story.
Running my school, I was doing it. I started looking into like what karate schools were getting, and so I based my prices off that. I just did it by the week, $120 a week. You know, and then if if I want to keep you longer or whatever, you know. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So my first year, 1989, I had 2 matches. I was undefeated, by the way. Should have won Rookie of the Year. Then 1990, dude, you talk about your path. I had 4 matches in 1990, still undefeated. And then, I went a whole year. I had a whopping 6 matches under my belt. And then it was 91 where Taz, and I would drive to shows. Taz was trained by Johnny as well, and they got into a massive argument. And he was just like, listen, we got to go other places to start to get other places.
Let me stop you real quick. I want to know, because that just brought up something. I worked Taz when we came up there in a singles match one night, and I don't know how many of you fuckers were involved in this, and if you were, just tell me, because on my bag before I went to the ring there was fucking 6 little packets of sugar.
Really? I don't even know what you're talking about.
That he was going to stretch me, put me in the sugar.
No, I know, but I don't know that it was probably your friggin' partner.
Hey,
we did not rib much at all in ECW.
Tell that fucking story, Tommy. Tell that story.
I will. Let me finish my story before I get to yours, you friggin' egomaniac. So it was also my dad, because now, listen, I'm 21 years old, and my father's like, so you walk and do, but let me tell you, I would walk around campus or town. I was Joe Pro Wrestler. I was everything that you and I would hate. I would wear like Hulk Hogan yellow tank tops, sticking out my chest, cowboy boots, fanny pack, thinking I'm Joe Pro Wrestler, but yet I've had 6 matches under my belt.
But so
yes, that's kind of why I did it. But my father was just like, okay, so let me ask you this. You've been wrestling for 2 years. How much money have you made? And I was like, nothing. And he was just like, okay, so how are you going to pay your car insurance, pay your car? Because they were paying it, my parents. Yeah. And I was like, well, Dad, and he was like, listen, you gave this man X amount of money at the time, your life savings. If you want to have a family, if you want to pay bills, how are you, you better start doing this, or else I'm going to make you pay for your car insurance and pay for things. And I was just like, no problem, Dad. And then it was also literally at that same time, Taz is like, we got to go other places. We got to go wrestle more. And I hooked up with the Savoldi's, and I have been on television from 1991 up until 2022 ever since. I hooked up with the Savoldi's. I was there for they would run minimum twice a month, and they had local TV. I mean, actually they had national TV, but this is all on, remember, old school sports channels. Yeah. And I would wrestle every weekend. Then I changed my whole school schedule around, because the deal I made with my parents, they would support me as long as I stayed in school and got my college education. Right. And they did. And, I would wrestle every Friday, Saturday on the road ever since, pretty much 91. From there, there was this guy, Tony Rumble, the Boston Bad Boy. He was the booker. He was always managing Taz. He got us on an indie, where Sabu was. Sabu and Taz became this big rivalry, on the indies. You started getting an indie buzz, and we were known as the good workers from up north, me, Taz, Chris Candido, Damian Demento, Bill DeMott. We were the known guys that were good wrestlers. I was blessed to have worked every name for the Savoldi's. Literally, I'd worked Tony Atlas, Dick Slater, Honky Tonk Man, Rick Rude, Rick Martel, Greg Valentine, have competitive matches because I was a young, good-looking baby face that could sell with a good body.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D. Hey folks, this is Wolfie D here, and if you are looking to buy or sell a home in Tennessee or Southern Kentucky, you're going to want to call my buddy, the rock star realtor, Benji Bowie. And you say, Wolfie, how do I get in touch with this rock star? Well, you can call him directly at 615-390-8216. You can go to his website, bowiehomes.com. That's B-U-I-E homes.com. Or you can email him at benbowie34@gmail.com. When you need a home, home, you need the Rockstar Realtor.
Benji is a member of Exit Realty's Garden Gate team in Gallatin, Tennessee.
Did Tommy Dreamer at this time, and just because I'm trying to visualize all this, and when you say those names, it reminds me of me early on getting to work, because nowadays these guys don't get to work with veterans. They work with each other, the blind leading the blind. But anyway, did Tommy Dreamer at this point in time, I know you didn't wear the Zubaz and the T-shirt and the kendo stick. So what was Tommy Dreamer's look at this time?
I had blue pants with clouds on them. I was more like, I'm a dreamboat. I'm a total baby face.
Right.
Then I also had suspenders, because I was also a long, long time ago when I'm also wrestling, you do everything. I was a topless waiter at an all male review, which was Chippendales.
Yeah.
And it was a male strip club before, and you would, I was a waiter, and you'd make crazy money. And then once, I think it was like at midnight when the male review ended, they'd open the doors for everybody else till about 2 a.m. And then I just put a shirt on and I would be bouncer, but cause that was kind of like a Chippendale gimmick that I kind of had, because I was a young, handsome, good looking kid, total 90s baby face, dude.
Right.
And then I met, I drove Taz to the arena because Taz was supposed to wrestle Sabu on the first ever ECW show that Paul took over. I wrestled under a mask the first November to remember. And then the next night I did TV. Me and Taz, we wrestled each other 1,000 times, had a really, really ahead of its time matchup. We did the match, and I had a job in wrestling ever since.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Very cool.
Now, your story, you want to know about your partner.
Yeah.
You talk about, like I said, it was probably Jamie who did that with the sugar packets on your bag. So this is ECW. I don't know the building, but this is, when you walk into those locker rooms where when you walk in, you have to take a couple of steps and all of a sudden the lights go on because they're motion censored.
Yeah.
So this is a new concept during the 90s. I walk in and I take a few steps, and then as soon as I walk in, Jamie is butt naked in the middle of the room. And I freeze, and I'm like, what are you doing? Because the lights go on. And he goes, I'm just shaving my pubes, and the lights went off. And I'm like, and he goes, I got scared, and I'm just standing here waiting for something to happen. And I go, like what? He goes, I don't know, like Tommy Dreamer walking in. And I go, okay. And then I go, why are you doing it in the middle of the locker room? And he goes, it's Wolfie's beard trimmer. I'm ribbing him.
Oh my God.
He shaving his nuts and his taint with Wolfie's beard trimmer that he's going to put it on his face later. Fuck him. He's an asshole. So his own partner just decided, I don't know for what reason, to rib him and put that stuff, put his pubes all over him. That's what I walked into. And I always tell everybody, this is what I call my 20s on a Saturday. It's totally different than most people's 20s.
I guess Jamie hadn't heard of manscaped.com, a code Wolfie, 20% off plus free shipping.
Nice plug.
The funniest part too is that you completely stooged him off to me. You came
absolutely.
Bathroom. You came to the bathroom. You walk up to me and you go, "Hey, did you know your partner's in there shaving his nuts with your beard trimmer?" And I said, "What?" And I dashed in there and fucking yes, he was in the stall when I got in there with his leg propped up on the toilet, trimming up under his balls. It's taint, as you said, trimming up under there. And I said, "Give me that motherfucker." And then I said, "No, here, you keep it."
It takes a mastermind to just think of that for one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you had asked me what. Listen, again, ECW really didn't do ribs, but I will tell you one that I was a part of.
Yeah.
So back in the day, there was a wrestler named the Rockin' Rebel, and he would always get under Paul's skin. And so he basically, Paul tells him we're in Wildwood, and we would do first match battle royal. The winner gets to fight Shane Douglas in the main event.
Okay.
So we do the battle royal. Paul tells him, hey, it's not working out with Shane as the champion, and I'm going to make you the champion. You're going to win the title tonight. First, you're going to win the battle royal. Then you're going to, work with Shane, and you're going to, be the face of ECW, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
So he's one of those guys who would totally be braggadocious about it, blah, blah, blah. He's no longer with us. He went a little crazy. He went a lot crazy.
Yeah.
So he doesn't tell anybody because Paul tells him, and Paul makes him leave the room. So then we have our battle royal meeting, and Paul says, listen, everybody, I told him he's going out. He's winning the battle royal, and I totally set him up, and I want him out first. So he comes out last with the whole pomp and circumstance, and Paul's like, just get rid of him. So when I tell you, everyone starts attacking him, throwing him out, but jokingly, and you got to go, bro. He's like, no, what the hell are you guys doing? And all of a sudden he starts rifling real punches at everybody because he thinks everybody's shooting on him. So then, and ECW, we're a different breed. We now all start beating the piss out of this poor guy. Yeah. And he's holding on to the top rope. And I remember people biting his fingers and kicking him. His shoot gets eliminated. Every time he tries to slide in, people are kicking him, and he's freaking out. So he goes to the back, and Paul's like, what are you doing? You're blowing all my, and he's like, they eliminated. Paul goes, get back in there. And this idiot decides to come back in, and they're all beating him up. And I'm like, dude, you gotta go. It's a rib. You're getting ribbed. You're going to get your ass beat. So he basically, he learned a very, very valuable lesson that evening. So it was pretty funny. And a lot of this stuff, the fact that it happened in front of a packed crowd is just because the fans just think they're seeing a battle royal. But when live rounds are being offered, they're literally ribbing a guy during a match, during a thing, and then everyone's legit eliminating him because that's what we have to do. This is early ECW.
So my brother and I were huge fans of wrestling growing up, and we grew up in a small town in Southwest Virginia near Bristol, Tennessee, and we would watch WCW, NWA, WWF, Smoky Mountain, Memphis when we could, but we just found out around 95 or so at 2 a.m. in the morning, the local public access channel played ECW. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so all of our friends were all marking out for it. We went from being, fans of the Four Horsemen to now we're okay, I'm Sandman, you're Raven, you're Tommy Dreamer, you're Taz, this, so on and so forth. So the time frame is about 1996, 97. I am at that time in a band that was like a hard rock band. We wrote our own songs. And so I ordered 2 t-shirts from ECW. I ordered the Taz for my brother, Survive If I Let You. And then I ordered yours where you are, you're kind of leaning on the Dreamer name. And then on the back, it says Innovator of Violence. So I ordered them, and then a month or 2 goes by and the charge goes through on the card, but we never actually get the shirts. So I call the number I called to order them, and a lady picks up, and she's very nice, and she says, oh, honey, I am so sorry, very, very New York lady saying, I'm so sorry, I'll get someone on that, and we will get those shirts out to you. And I said, okay, great. Well, somebody calls me back in a couple of days, and it's a deep, you can tell it's a deep Brooklyn accent. And he's like, Yeah, heard you had a problem. I'm not going to imitate the accent, but you'll get it. Yeah, I think you had a couple issues with the order. You ordered a couple shirts. Said, yeah, my brother's a fan of Taz. I got him this shirt. I'm a big fan of Dreamer. I got this shirt. He was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll get it sent out to you. And we got the shirts. But when they called back, the deep Brooklyn accent, it had a name on it. It wasn't an 800 number. It was Richard Heyman on the caller ID. And caller ID had just came out, and my parents got a caller ID box, and it says Richard Heyman. Okay, so I knew Paul Heyman's name. I didn't know his dad's name. I met you many years later, kind of told you this story, and you were busy getting ready for a match, and I didn't want to bug you, but I told you this story, and you confirmed it. And so we were talking, and I called the number back, and the same accent, but maybe not as strong answers. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to shoot my shot on this. Okay. I'm in a band. I want to, get a song for a wrestler. I would love for Tommy Dreamer to come out to my song. I would love for the Sandman. I would love for anybody to come out to one of my band's songs. So I sent like 3 CDs up to an address. And anyway, long story short, never happened, of course. Maybe it was a good coaster for somebody, but the cool thing is they sent a DVD. I think they sent 2 T-shirts, something else. It was like really cool. Anyway, so like I said, I talked to you many years later, and you were getting ready for a match with Jerry Lawler in Nashville, and I didn't want to bug you too long, but you actually confirmed that was probably not only the New York lady was Paul's mom.
Yep.
And then Taz, and it could have been you that I spoke to on the 3rd time.
And I'm sure I was the one who sent you the CDs and the T-shirts and the stuff. The old ECW office was run by myself.
Yeah.
Guido, Devon. We used to kind of always have kayfabe names, which were all names from Seinfeld. We had the same people. When the original House of Hardcore wrestling school was Taz, Perry Saturn, and Bubba, and then Mikey Whipwreck, they all used Seinfeld names.
Right.
But when stuff like that happened, Paul's mom would, kind of follow up with it, and then I would make sure that it got done. And Paul's father, and that's if you ever hear old school Paul promos, he would talk about Tricky Dicky Heyman. That was his homage to his dad, Richard Heyman, they both great people. And it was a real mom and pop shop. Eventually we got a fulfillment house, and they were actually fulfilling orders, but we would still, because we're pro wrestling, we don't trust people. We would go out to the fulfillment house once a week instead of giving them all our T-shirts, because we would also have to load them up for the road, and different wrestlers. Like I would make sure, some of the ring crew would get paid, just because they would then bring the merch, and then we would not only did they get to wrestle, but then they'd be on the card wrestling, but then they'd also get their hotel and their trans. They weren't flying, but they were at least driving to the events, and we did all that stuff.
So when I found that out, I called my brother immediately, and I said, Jared, you're never going to believe this. I said that was probably and so I kept the phone that had the caller ID attached to it. I kept that phone well into the 2000s to show that I had spoken to someone at the Heyman household. It was the craziest story, because I knew for a fact I couldn't call WCW and talk to my favorite wrestler, Ric Flair. And I knew that I couldn't call WWF and talk to Hulk Hogan or whoever, but it blew my mind that I actually had spoken to you and probably Taz, and then, like you said, Paul's very sweet mother. She was just absolutely a darling, So anyway,
yes, she was, and sadly, I still know that phone number.
Well, I don't have that still, but I thought about
that phone number, my own phone number from my first house memorized.
Yeah,
crazy what remember.
Kidding. We'll be right back with Current Affair. DJ, hit the music.
It's a current affair. It's a current affair. Love it in color. It's a current affair. Love it in color.
All right, we're back with Current Affairs with the Innovator of Violence, Tommy Dreamer. Tommy, this is a fun segment that we like to do that kind of picks the brains of the wrestlers that we talk with about the current product. The main one that I always ask our guests is, who are some of the current wrestlers going, either upcoming or current stars, that you really like to watch?
I like to watch everybody, and that's not just a general answer. I love this business. I do watch so many people perform. I'm a big fan of, so many. I'm trying to think offhand. Like, I still love watching AJ Styles. I've wrestled him. I truly do think he is phenomenal in the ring. I love seeing my friends still doing it. Up and coming wrestlers, there's a lot of talented. I'm probably one of the biggest Young Bucks fans. I didn't get it until I wrestled him live at the first ever All In, Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
There's so many great wrestlers out there. Everybody can nitpick. Everybody can be a Monday morning quarterback, if you will, but there's so much great talents where I'm also sitting there like, how do they physically do that? Like somebody like a Ricochet, how does he, is he going to be the next Rey Mysterio? Because you think when you've seen everything in professional wrestling, yet this guy can pull off a move that you haven't seen before. And that's hard to do in wrestling. I like watching everybody. And part of my job on Busted Open is we literally break down every single wrestling show. So that answer, I don't have an answer for you, because I enjoy everybody.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the perfect answer in person, because that's the honest opinion of your thoughts there. So
jump on here real quick.
Of course, Wolfie. It's your show, buddy.
Just something that I saw the other day, and Jimmy, we were talking about this after we did a watch along the other day, and I watched Jamie and Chris Candido, and there was like a superplex or something, which made me think of this clip that I saw on Facebook. It was an indie show, and the guy did a fucking, and you're ECW, and you guys, lifted that fucking bar as far as bumps and all that kind of stuff. So saying this to you, I really want to get what you think. The guy does a damn reverse hurricanrana off the top rope. It looks like it fucking kills the guy, man. I mean, that's a crazy bump anyway, just on the mat, but off the top, I mean, it looked like it killed him. But then the dude, I mean, he pretty much popped up, sold it. I mean, he was staggering, and the guy that did it jumped up to the second rope and come off with a RKO for the 1, 2, 3. And I'm thinking, man, why would you not just beat him with that? Because it totally shit on the fucking move that looked way more impressive than the RKO. What do you think about stuff like that?
Well, here's what I say. And, we've talked about the past. I don't go back and watch any of my stuff, but I know a specific spot that I used to do. And it was me and Raven. Raven and I, we used to do this all the time. He would shoot me off, go for a drop kick. I would hook the ropes, literally give him a knee drop to his groin. He would pop up selling. And what would I do? I would pick him up and run him again. If I saw myself do that today, or a wrestler do that today, I'd be like, what the hell were you thinking? Blah, blah, blah. And then I'd go back and I'd say, well, you're a hypocrite, because we've all done things that don't make sense. We've all taken some crazy ass bumps. Yeah. And at the time they seem right. But then if you really go back and think about it, you're like, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, I guess, for wrestlers to be smarter, there's not a lot of people watching on these indies, but yet if they're filming it, you have a digital imprint that lasts forever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I think a lot of men and women go out there and go above and beyond, because I mean, for a while, if you were an internet darling, you were getting hired. So what I have to say about it is, man, don't get hurt, but yes, maybe sometimes save it for the bigger shows, because when you're in your 20s, you think 30s and 40s is so old, but when you've lived it like we both have, it's like, man, I wish I was smarter, back then.
True story.
Yeah, and yeah, that's awesome. And that wraps up our current affairs segment for the day. Tommy, I'm a huge fan of Busted Open. You guys do an awesome job. Also love your House of Hardcore podcast. Tell us what else you got going on, the promotion. Tell us what's coming up for Tommy.
Nothing, man. Just doing indies, working an Impact behind the scenes, enjoying my life of every day. Wrestling is a good day. Fans can find me at the Tommy Dreamer on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm not that Facebook smart, but Twitter and Instagram is kind of where I'm at.
Awesome. Wolfie, you want to take us out, man?
Yeah, man. Tommy, love you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Wolfie, love you too.
And to the people out there, again, we got Manscaped 20% off if you use code Wolfie. This has been Live and in Color with Wolfie D, Tommy Dreamer, and Jimmy Street.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school, but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Join me, Gene Jackson, for the Jackson Interaction Podcast, where I'll be doing one-on-one interviews with people from the world of professional wrestling, as well as stand-up comedy. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available in both video and audio form, but you can find them all at genejacksonpod.com.
That's right, it's the Talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WOLFE. I'm on Instagram at WarrenWolf13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
I got a cap for your dome. He got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome. He got a cap for your dome. He got a cap for your dome.
And here we go. The original white boy that came out sagging, not bragging, don't be hating, cause I'm spitting the truth. Still live and in color. Bum rush your mother, utilize a hubcap, unlike any other. Back in the day, I was NOD, and I was P to the G, plus the 1 and the 3. In case you forgot, they call me Wolfie D. Been cloned and copied so many times, tired of suckers taking credit for what is mine. You know who you are without me name dropping. Wrestling's first white boy coming out hip hopping. Been doing it like this since 92. Laid low for a while and you thought I was through. Listen real close to these rhymes that I've injected. This shit's so sick it makes your ears get infected. Mad skills, no faking, there is no one great. Cause I'm bringing more folks than Obi-Wan or Vader. Not here to play games, so you better beware. You don't like me, so what? I really don't care. Like time I keep ticking and I can't be stopped. You sucker step to the side unless you wanna get dropped. With my finish, I'll straight knock you out. Please allow me to tell you what it's all about. I'm gonna wind it up, then I'm driving it home. It's Wolfie D, baby. I got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome. We got a cap for your dome. We got a cap for your dome.
This has been a James Rock Street production.